I love, Brian, that you said, what is reality? Because a lot of times what we think is true and what is actually true do not align. We have a false sense of reality. And this next financial truth I think is really interesting, what I think a lot of people get wrong. A lot of people think that in order to be wealthy, you have to have been born into it. In order to have financial wherewithal, in order to have resources, your parents or grandparents had to do so. And the fact of the matter is, that's just not the case. The vast majority of wealthy people don't inherit their wealth.
Yeah, this is one I grew up with. I grew up in a household where a lot of, I don't know if it was called jealousy or frustration, was that those wealthy people, they're born into it. And, it wasn't until I started doing taxes. I graduated with an accounting degree, started doing taxes. I remember calling my parents, but Mom, Dad, these people pay a lot of taxes. I mean, so it's not, but that's taxes. But they also, what I found from the research, when I also, in that same time I got my first accounting job, I got the Millionaire Next Door, I got the Wealthy Barber, and I started seeing research that was whispering in my ear and saying, no, a lot of these people, the stats show around 80% of millionaires are first generation. And that was pretty exciting. When I saw that, I was like, wait a minute. So I could do this. I
could be in that population.
I could do this. And it even expanded because I gave you the 80%. That's 1996 that we had the Millionaire Next Door kind of come out. But go back, Dr. Stanley's daughter, Sarah, came out and she wrote a book called The Next Millionaire Next Door. That came out a few years ago. She actually did the research, expanded it back to the 1800s. The stat was around 84% were first generation. And then Ramsey Solutions did their own huge study of millionaires, and they found that the number was around 79%. I saw a clip recently came across. Dave had, if you took into account the people who had inherited less than like $10,000 and the people who had made $1 million already before they inherited, the number goes actually up closer to 90%.
Wild.
And then our own millionaire study, now realize we used a very low threshold. If you had inherited anything up to $10,000, we kind of took you out on this, but our data was 74% in our most recent or self-made. I think people need to hear that because we hear constantly the system is rigged against you. You can't do this. And that's why between the financial order of operations, between the money multiplier, everything we're trying to do is to show you, look, don't listen to the negativity. Just use today to do something positive because you can do it. You can be the first person that does this and change your life, change your family's life, and just start making something happen today.
I love it. How your journey started does not define how it ends. So don't fall into the trap of other people telling you that is the case. If you want to be wealthy and you live here in this country, it is possible. It is available to you. You just got to figure out those 3 ingredients of wealth creation and start moving towards that.
I think the next one, the next one is so important. Teaching your children about financial success matters because we just made through the research point that 80% of millionaires are first generation, meaning that their parents, they're the first ones to make the 7-figure mark. That stat is only true if you understand that by the time the kids inherit the money, 70% of them go broke. And then by the time the grandkids inherit the money, 90% of them are run it. That's how the cycle renews itself. It's just this constant churn of wealth. And that's something, so if you are a person that's on your journey of building wealth, I got to tell you, teach the kids well so that you don't follow into that horrible stat. I hope my daughter falls into the 30% that doesn't blow through everything I've created in this lifetime. And then her children will hopefully be part of that 10% that are the exception to the rule because all of our peers have a very dysfunctional relationship with how money works and wealth creation.
What I love about this truth, Brian, is it should say, if I was going to reframe the name of this slide, it'd say, teaching your children about financial success matters for both you and for them, because it's really, really interesting. When we think about Dr. Stanley's work, when he wrote The Millionaire Next Door, and he talked about these 7 factors of wealth, there were 2 that immediately stick out. Number 4, their parents did not provide them economic outpatient care, meaning the parents were not giving money to the kids to subsidize their life. The kids kind of had to figure it out on their own. But look at the flip side of this. Number 5, their adult children are economically self-sufficient because they didn't receive help from their parents. They created kids that aren't also looking for help from them. It's a beautiful cycle if you can create the wealth cycle the right way, that then you can do really, really remarkable things. But it has to start early. If you have young children, it is not too early to start teaching them about money. If you have older children that maybe are getting in high school or maybe getting ready for college, it's not too late to start teaching them about money. But what you want to make sure you do is you want to be the one having the conversation with them, because if you let society, if you let social media, if you let the world around them teach them about money, they're going to teach them about credit cards and debt and borrowing and the hottest trend and the latest style and consumption. That's not the lesson you want your kids receiving. So you be an agent to teach the next generation how to continue that on.
Yeah, and I've shared, my daughter turned 15, my oldest turned 15. We started doing, just like your employer primes the pump with a dollar for dollar match or 50 cents on the dollar, you can do the same thing with your children. As they start working and they start coming into money, use that as a tool to say, hey, can you allocate a portion to savings and get a free match to turbocharge that? It has worked incredibly well with my oldest, and I hope you too will employ that behavior as you're working through it as well.